Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are all just about ready and set up for game number 3 between Gamers 2 and in Faculty. Gamers 2 managed to even out their last game, making the series one game apiece, of course, meaning this game could be either way and will be our deciding match. The winner of this game will go on to play H2K at our IEM Cologne offline portion of the expansion tournament.
I'm still exhausted after that game. I'm sorry. So that was a long game out of both teams.
5 minutes we hit at the end of that point. Long and drawn out. And ultimately it came down to Gamers 2, while they had the lead and they had the advantage, didn't really know how to end it for a long time.
And I think you can tell that by the fact that we've got everybody setting up the lobby as we go, because this is all happening. We only had a 3-minute break, is what I'll say. Everything's just going in one go, and Gamers 2 aren't here yet. So we're waiting on them for a couple of minutes, but I don't really begrudge them a couple more minutes after that.
A game that long, I mean, we were a little bit exhausted, fine, but playing a game that long, we've all done it occasionally in the solo queues and the like, but when there's this much on the line and you're playing this much attention, you've got to focus so hard, it must be absolute hell for these guys going through a game at that length, but they are now funneling into the lobby, so they are composed and ready to go. So we've had 2 very different team comps from both teams in the first 2 games. Where do we look for picks and bans to go this time around?
So I'm going to go all the way back to picks and bans of that game, because we were very confused by the last couple of bans, or the last ban that Gamers 2 placed, and they banned Malphite. That should have been a big tell. A red side ban on Malphite is nothing that you'd expect ever, but it makes a lot of sense knowing that JWoww wanted to play Jax. Malphite into Jax would be a lane that Jax can't really handle, and it makes sense now. 65 minutes later on in the game, it makes a heck of a lot of sense that Gamers 2 banned it.
Even without the Jax, we mentioned how in Faculty would have had a much better time with a harder engage than they had. Malphite, one of the hardest engages in the game. So could have perhaps predicted where Gamers 2 wanted to take there with the bans.
Yeah, it's just been a while since JWoww and Jax always go hand in hand to me, but it's been so long since Jax has been a staple of the top lane that you can see that Gamers 2 didn't feel comfortable with it, and Faculty didn't feel comfortable playing against it. So will they ban out Jax here? I have to feel like it's an option, depending on how the first 4 bans go.
They are also on the red side, so this could open something up different again for in Faculty with the way their bans obviously go.
Very true.
And with the opening picks for Gamers 2. So we will have to pay very, very close attention to how those unfold, as we have all 10 players in the lobby. Just waiting for them to order up and then go. Still expecting to obviously see the Nars to be there. Lee Sin we've seen now twice banned out. We've seen both Corki and Lucian played either time. Neither of these teams seem to want to ban away AD carries. We've also seen Irelia that has been banned, and a Syndra taken away in those games.
Yeah, I'm glad you can remember that. My brain's fried.
Could Syndra be opened up this time and sacrificed for something different because of how hard the focus has had to be on top lane?
That is a very possible situation. I kind of want to speculate a little bit on top lane a tiny bit more. I know we're talking a lot about JWoww in that top lane.
That's the patch. That's the way this game goes.
Exactly. We are on 4.19, so it is all about that top lane. But honestly, knowing that JWoww doesn't like to play Maokai, it's not going to be banned out by Faculty. They could ban it out for Gamers 2. We may even see Gamers 2 look to pick something like a Rumble. And then Zazis, with his last pick, has picked Kassadin into Rumble. So we may not see the typical Irelia Maokai Gnar that we'll see. I guess may all be banned in this matchup.
Gamers 2 banned Rumble in the last game, but they were on blue side. So yes, you mentioned there's a difference in there. I'm all for different top laners. The likes of Lysandras and Victors and Kassadin's out there too. Could make this very, very interesting up against your bog standard farm lanes that we saw. Jax, Maokai's, even Aurelius to some extent. Mid lanes, we've now seen 2 different matchups there too. Xerath, Orianna, and Ahri Zed. Where could it go this time around? Perhaps an Ahri again in there. We did suspect Z bans sometimes. Maybe that'll be an opening. The real switch from blue to red completely changes the way these games are going to pick.
It is, and let's focus on mid lane a little bit. We'll bring it to mid lane now. So Jace was banned out as well by N-Faculty the first time they played red side, so that could be another ban that we'll see. Otherwise, could be open for Ocelote. We saw Ocelote banning away Orianna on blue side as well because they were prioritizing another champion as their first pick. Obviously, Orianna wouldn't be that, but they didn't want it in the rotation for N-Faculty. There is a lot here that is going to be available at the end of Champion Select that has not been available in one of the 2 games previously. So you already alluded to the Syndra, could be another option.
So both teams are ready. We are ready. Now let's get the Champion Select started. See where any of that theory may come true or if we're just completely chatting crap.
It was a long game. I wouldn't put it past us.
There are all sorts of names and numbers and champions floating around our heads right now. So let's see where Gamers 2 open us up with. They, of course, have that first ban being blue side this time over. And then, of course, Zazas has to give us his answer. First ban, I'm going to go out ahead and call it Jace from Gamers 2.
I wouldn't be surprised if that actually comes up. Oh, no, not this time. People will be saying, but you have it on your screen. Wow, okay.
Didn't at that point.
I did not expect that either. I didn't feel like Xerath was
a pivotal part of the comp, though.
I don't feel like it was what won them the game, though. I think Xerath was much more of a champion that is just all around good for Ocelote, and that's why they picked it in the late game, or in the late stages of picks and bans.
The thing is, what it did allow them to do was stay at such a distance while wave clearing and sieging, which is what screwed N-Faculty up, because they couldn't then get in to engage. So even though you can pick an Ahri that does a similar, or an Orianna that does a similar, they're far easier to engage upon.
Yeah.
We do have follow-up bans, though, from Gamers 2 and N-Faculty that Jace is now gone. N-Faculty did it, but once more, Gamers 2 have banned out Malphite.
Yeah, so this opens up the Jax picks, also opens up a first pick Irelia out of JWoww. Would not be surprised to see, so either Na or Irelia is going to get banned out by N-Faculty, and the other will get through and likely be first picked by JWoww. Okay, crazy land has happened.
JWoww now is either saying, all right, you leave Gnar open, I take it, and you're forced onto Jax, or you ban Jax, I take Gnar, or you ban Gnar and I take Jax. They ban Gnar,
but you can't first pick it, because there's too many other lanes for Jax. That, I mean, you could see a return to form of Shen, who Shen Jax we saw so much. Shen
Where
just
else
has a
is
better...
he going here? It's only Rumble left open.
Yeah, that would be the other one. This would be damage coming out from the first pick. So, Prophet Panky.
There is a Rumble first pick then. So while Jax was there all the way through, Rumble, and what does N-Faculty put into it? Of course, Zazas has all the time now to think about it, but not many to choose from.
This is what we said, though. Rumble, Zazas picks Kassadin into Rumble. It was going to be Maokai or Rumble. I'm still trying to formulate everything that we said between these games, because there has been a lot going on, but Rumble is obviously great for that mid-game and objective control.
What we also have now is, because of all these top lane bans, we have a few other options open. Syndra, as I mentioned, is there. Lee Sin, which was previously banned, is also there. So there's a couple more jungle and mid lane options to choose from. Zazas locks in that Xerath and Obvious grabs the Corki again. So that's our first from N-Faculty.
And speaking of obvious, it's obvious that Ku is going to at least think about Lee Sin here. Don't shake your head. I mean, Ku and Lee Sin go hand in hand, so that would not be...
That makes sense. It was the obvious pun that I was shaking.
Yeah, I know that was. I could not forgo that one. I'm sorry.
So, Q and Ocelote got a decision to make. Ocelote has been known to try his hand at Syndra a couple of times, but it hasn't always had the best effect. And we did see N-Faculty thinking about the Zed earlier on.
Yeah, and we know Ocelote played Zed in the series, I believe it was against Reason Gaming, that he played Zed. At least they played it in their games last week, and he did actually very well. So the other thing that would allow them to pick Zed is the fact they have an AP top laner as well. So they're not going to be stacking a lot of AD in this game. So it is an option here.
At the moment, they're looking at a Lucian, which I don't think would surprise anyone up against that Corki, especially the way it picks, and this series has gone up till this point. But they're actually gone for their support partner to go with it, so it's Lucian and Janna.
Yep, so against a Jarvan who is hard engage, what better than hard disengage from Janna's Monsoon? So that makes a lot of sense. Also, just the pairing in the bottom lane. Every time you see Lucy and Janna, you pretty much have to say just how much damage that does.
Yeah, right now, Gamers 2's first 3 picks doesn't really reveal a whole lot about the way their composition's going to go. There's a good mix of everything in and amongst there. It's not the greatest for Siege at the moment, because Rumble, of course, has to get very, very close. But we did see from H2K just how well Rumble can do in a Siege if he gets ahead. Drop that equalizer on people and scare them back and away very, very quickly. But that all depends on getting ahead, which if Xazus' Kassadin into Rumble pick goes the way he wants it to, could be a challenge for JWoww. This is something that you mentioned last week when we saw in Faculty play. It's a bait out that Faculty want if they go Kassadin into Maokai or Kassadin into Rumble, or Kassadin into Lysandra was the other option. But he's actually switched it away at the last second to go with the Sona and an Aatrox.
Okay, so this basically says that Xazus knows that everybody's going to assume he's playing Kassadin, so Aatrox is a champion that very few top laners still play, because he's very difficult to get going, but keep in mind he has that revive passive, and that against a Rumble is actually pretty good, because you just survive through all of his damage, he goes into overheat, and can't really do too much against you when you come back.
So, there is the potential jungle for Ku that you toyed about earlier. Ku is famous for that Lee Sin. Gamers 2 are thinking on it. But if those two get locked in, right now I see middle game and I see nothing late. So if this game does go as long as its second one did, Gamers 2 are in serious trouble even before in Faculty grabbed that last pick option. If Ocelote goes with this LeBlanc too, we're looking at a dangerous blind pick option, so they do have to be very careful, and they swap it away at the last second to go with a Zed. So Zed Lee Sin are our last two Gamers 2 picks.
I mean, the counter we saw to Zed at Worlds would have been Talon. We may very well see that, or at least lane matchup that they would put against it. Honestly, right now, Cells Perfect has so many options that he can pick from. Just which does he want to go ahead? There is, I mean, there's not a lot of favorable matchups into Zed, but there's a lot that you can force Zed into a skill matchup.
So, Gamers 2 have their full 5. We'll wait for our last one from Faculty, but again, I still see no huge standout compositions from Gamers 2 other than split push Zed with a Lee Sin gank.
Yeah, I mean, split pushing Zed and then you can disengage using Janna, and from there, Rumble has a lot of damage for team fights. But I'm not too surprised that it's the Orianna we talked about. There's a lot of skill matchups. Orianna is the biggest one, and with Jarvan makes a lot of sense. So I feel like Gamers 2 would have read that coming a long, long way away.
So in Faculty have a very strong wombo combo fight, especially with both Xazus leaping in and Jarvan leaping in to deliver that ball onto Gamers 2 if they're too clumped. They definitely scale a lot better than the Gamers 2 do as well. So a long game will favour in Faculty this time around, providing they do not fall too far behind in the laning or the mid-game phase. 2 games in a row now, we've seen Gamers 2 manage to sneak out that early dragon, thanks to keeping an eye on the bottom lane recall timings for in Faculty. Let's see if they can pull that off again, or if in Faculty are ready for it. And 2 games in a row now, we've seen either team on the blue side plant that ward deep in the enemy red buff start. So we've got a couple of precedents to keep an eye on from the earlier levels, but we do have our load screen now up and ready to go.
We do.
So don't forget to join in, guys, at LollySports on Twitter, and the hashtag is LCS Expansion for any thoughts you may have on the games in front of you. These teams are loading in any second now, and that level 1, we'll have to see if it goes around the same as before. But ultimately, similarities, yes, but this game is going to come down to the junglers again.
Yeah, it will somewhat come down to the junglers, but one thing that I think we haven't yet talked about too much about that Aatrox pick, and he will require a little bit of jungler help against Rumble, at least for the early game until he can get that sustain up, is it's another factor of ball delivery for those fights. They don't need Jarvan to be the first one in, and we actually have a pause straight away, sorry guys, so as much as we'd love to take you straight into the game, it's not quite going to be the way this one works out yet.
Yeah, so we'll let them go through. Obviously, summoner spells in this game are completely level. Exhausts on both supports, heals on both AD carries, and obviously ignites on both mid lanes, especially Zed as an assassin doesn't surprise anyone, and Orianna easily has the potential to 1v1 someone down if she uses that aggressive spell as well. We'll get an update, of course, from the admins exactly what this pause may be for, as soon as we know it, of course. So we'll give you that news when we can figure it out.
Yeah, there's a very interesting discussion, actually, of what ability or what summoner ability you should take against a Zed, because there's all the way back during the time when everybody was taking heal in the middle lane, which you don't see all so much now. There was a lot of discussion with taking barrier against Zed because you want to essentially have that extra health before he all-ins you so that you've got essentially more of a cushion for when the death mark pops. So it's a really weird factor that we can see the ignite out of SozPerfect. Just means he wants to be more aggressive in the lane as it is. But I guess it's one of those decisions is how do you want to bully it out? Do you want to use those aggressive auto-attacks Mariano from SozPerfect on Ocelote and ping that ignite on him and push him down?
Yeah, ping issues slightly for gamers too, but they seem to have been resolved as both teams call ready. So we'll get this game on pause for you as soon as possible, and we can finally get the third and final deciding game between Gamers 2 and Faculty underway. Of course, just in case you missed it, Gamers 2 are back on the blue side, as this is our third and final match, and Faculty back on the red side. Winner has to face H2K next week.
Yep.
Well, not next week, sorry. Next time around in the offline rounds at IEM Cologne. But there it is on your screens. Red team now is in Faculty top right-hand corner, and Gamers 2 are blue team in the bottom left as things go underway. Right now, though, from those two previous games, knowing these guys have to play H2K in the offline rounds, I can't say I'm particularly confident for either of them.
No. I kind of would say the same.
H2K looked very, very good, yes.
They did. They looked so good they won a best of 3 in one game. Because unfortunately, Gilius's computer wasn't playing ball yesterday, which we do, once again, apologize for, but that was out of our control. However, this game is our focus. This deciding game, Gamers 2 and Faculty. So no 2-0 for Faculty this time. That was the last result between these two. But SozPerfect sending out the good luck, have fun. I can see that on my screen. Playing nice.
There, we do see a ward to spot the invade coming in from Obvious to see where the Gamers 2 are looking for that red buff ward again. They had done it in the previous game, especially in the first game when they were blue side. Let's see if they choose to this time around. Ocelote's heading that way, but they haven't gone just yet. They're waiting for as long as possible. Bottom lane, don't see either of them actually looking into that bush because we have a lane swap coming up from Gamers 2.
Now, have they read this? Have Faculty sussed out the lane swap at all? Do they have any wards out for it early on? So far, no they haven't, because it's an unorthodox thing. We only saw it in one game yesterday, and that was when the Na was put under a lot of pressure in the series. I'm racking my brain back. I think it was the Reason Different Dimension series. Yes, it was. And what we saw was a lot of pressure being put on a laner that really can't 1v2. And I feel like
2 actually invading here on the red buff as soon as the buff spawns. That's really slowed down Obvious, and they've stolen it away onto Q. They also now have shown up their lane swap, of course, because Lucian's shown top, and Rumble in the jungle now with Q to help him get as much as possible. But it has given Sona an opportunity to go straight to the opposite red buff, start that off, pull it, and hand it over to Obvious. So while it's not an immediate 3-buff start, it does slow Jarvan down.
It also is going to really slow down JWoww off this lane swap because, I mean, Aatrox is a melee range champion and his abilities cost him health. So if he wants to try and farm with Blades of Torment, he's going to chunk himself down for every CS he picks up, and with a big amount of people up in this top lane right now, could end up getting that passive very early on. But this middle lane, take a look, Ocelote is already getting chunked down by SozPerfect, as you'd expect in the early levels of this matchup. But it's going to get a lot tougher when Zed gets a couple of levels under him.
So it's very, very tough to dive an Aatrox in the top lane, even with 4 people because of his passive. So they swapped it up to go somewhere else. Yeah. Middle lane. They're coming in behind SozPerfect. Q is there. Ocelote gets the slowdown. Flash forward for Q to make sure he lands the slow. And there's the Sonic Wave too. SozPerfect's looking to flash, but can't do it because of the Sonic Wave, and will fall for first blood at 3 minutes 20.
Yeah, that is just a very well-worked gank out by Gamers 2, knowing that SozPerfect was putting the pressure on Ocelote early on, and SozPerfect didn't flash there because, as you said, would have been the follow-up from Lee Sin, but hopefully that'll allow him to play a little bit safer in the rest of this game. But a kill on Ku already on Lee Sin. We've seen from this point, Ku can do a lot of work around the map.
So we mentioned how Gamers 2 is very much early mid-game focus. They don't scale so well later on. If they can keep Ku's bowl rolling,
That was more difficult to say than it
was.
should have been.
It was more than I thought it was going to be. But they can certainly control the middle game with that. They do now look to go top lane, but they walked across the ward on the way here, and as a result, Obvious has come nice and close to try and help save Xaxus' life. He still has his passive. He's keeping JWoww busy, and Janna takes a turret shot that ultimately gains them nothing. Still looking to keep pressure onto Xaxus though and make sure he doesn't get as many CS as possible, but the gank is off in Gamers 2, base Q and JWoww.
Yeah, JWoww just is only level 2 still, so couldn't really be that low health and still fight in that top lane skirmish. So it is still a 600 gold lead for Gamers 2 right now, but Faculty are playing around this lane swap fairly well because Rumble isn't getting much experience or farm to himself either. And down in the bottom lane, you can see that Cedrian and Mountain are just happily farming away.
Happily just farming for free. 33 CS now up onto Cedrian. Lucian is a little way behind, but it is only minor, especially as the wave is pushing towards them, so he'll even it out nice and soon. Galvan's going to hang around up top to help him, make sure he can push that in and get a free base off without losing too much turret damage or experience. But Q's come bottom to help JWoww out, and they're going to do a similar thing. Make sure they break this freeze by pushing the wave in right towards the tower.
They are indeed, and that should break any kind of freeze for Faculty right now. As you can see, it will now push in towards them. But Gamers 2 have a problem in the bottom lane though, because with their duo lane up top, Faculty could look for an early dragon, and we've seen it out of them before. So in the next couple of minutes, watch for any kind of plays by Obvious and the bot lane on that global objective that is dragon.
Ocelote actually just took a lot of burst in there. There's again from Sol's Perfect while trying to CS under tower, but he does have the CS lead in that middle lane. Now, Ku is heading towards the Dragon Pit, but it is just a run past it at the moment. Obvious is coming down from top and does get spotted out. That ward missed the bush, Ku. Now that death bush is not warded and is an easy board kill for Obvious. However, Obvious placed his own pink ward in that bush, but Ku did see it happen. So at some point, Gamers 2 will go in there to take that one out, and for now, they're just going to play around it.
Ku's been playing too much updated Summoner's Rift. Just misses the bush a little bit, but okay.
Well, I think that's the point, actually. Gamers 2, as we mentioned yesterday, haven't played any of the updated Summoner's Rift.
Maybe Ku's been sneaking down in the middle of the night to get gamers in on the Summoner's Rift before the rest of the team. What are you doing? No. We know Gamers 2 have been focusing very much so on scrimming for this game. It's put them in a 1-on-1 state right now against Faculty. Let's keep that in mind. This essentially has become this game to decide who will advance to the offline portion.
Yeah, there's still a big mountain to climb once you get to the offline portion. Of course, that is a double elimination bracket at IEM Cologne. Plenty more games to decide it. But when you're in the final 4 and there's 2 spots left to go, the chances are a hell of a lot better than being in the final 8. 1 kill to nothing, though, for Gamers 2. And we haven't seen really much of an opening to get a second kill for either team so far. But the gold lead is about 600 for Gamers 2, which is just the first blood gold, really. They haven't done anything more to stretch it out. Ocelote still has a slight gold CS lead, in the middle lane, and he's going to do all he can to keep that now that he's bought a Cutlass. We do see the top lane as being very, very close. Of course, they've been lane swapped for the majority of it, and there is still a minor lead for Corki down in the bottom lane.
But he hasn't had a time to go back yet, and the problem with that is, as soon as Corki backs away, Cedrian essentially gives up the map control that having this duo lane in the bottom lane actually gives them. So you could see Gamers 2 very quickly turn to Dragon if Cedrian does back away. And item-wise, he's far behind just because he's had to sit in this lane. He's sat on 2,000 gold right now. And the difference between obviously having an item like the makings of your Trinity Force and not having it in the first Dragon fight is going to be crucial for Faculty.
It is exactly what we saw Gamers 2 do in the last 2 games. As soon as they saw Cedrian and Mountain back, they went and took the Dragon. But this time around, they're looking for a different strategy. They brought Lee Sin down in the bottom lane. They've kicked Mountain straight back into Rumble, and she is very dead.
That is a very dead Sona indeed. And we saw that play yesterday, I believe it was, in our other second round games. He just hops over the wall and picks up a kill from that kick from Ku, and they're going to capitalize on that with a blue buff from here. Wouldn't be surprised to see them actually go for Dragon at the same time, but they want to take as much away from Obvious as possible.
Yeah, they are pushing him back, but he's trying to keep vision on this. Oriana's coming down, Cedrian's coming down, and they are poking Gamers2 very, very low. They can't hang around for much longer here. Looking to try and smite it away, but it does go to Java.
Too many members of N faculty around this area, so Gamers2 aren't really going to get much from that push. And they didn't get much from something they did earlier as well, because Ocelote looked to roam towards the top lane about a minute ago in this game. And the problem with that is, you can deathmark Aatrox all you want, but he has his passive available, and that is essentially a hard counter to Zed's engage potential. Zed wants to 100 to 0 somebody, and that's it. Done. End of engage. Aatrox, not the case.
Speaking of Aatrox, he's actually got a low health flasher on the screen at the moment, taking a lot of punishment from that BF Sword Lucian in the top lane. But Lucian is now backing up because Xaxus is safe and under tower.
Looking at the items in this game, a very common pickup that we see in the AP versus AD matchup is that Tear of the Goddess. That is exactly what Cells Perfect has built for. That's going to give him better damage later in the game. Once you get that into the Archangel Staff, he's going to have so much damage, and the shield as well, to just protect from all of the all-in potential that Zed is going to bring.
So we see all 5 members of Gamers2 now in the bottom half of the map. Do get Corki coming back to lane just now though, so that dragon window for Gamers2 is slowly vanishing, but there is still... Actually, it didn't flash. Mountain didn't flash in that bottom lane, so I was going to say there's still a lacking summoner, but it doesn't matter. Gamers2 are willing to start off this dragon. They're standing on a ward though, and there are 4 members of faculty close. Dragon's down to half health. Now Jarvan's coming in. Teleport coming out from Aatrox. He's going to dash straight into the pit. They're kicking onto Mountain. And you'll see Sona getting focused. But now Zed's doing all the damage. The crescendo goes out. And the dragon goes over to Gamers2. They also pick up the first kill onto Jarvan. But now Xaxus is here trying to do what he can. And JWoww's in close as well. Shockwave goes off but doesn't do a whole lot. And Gamers2 still have the numbers advantage but not a whole lot of health. They grabbed the objective and they grabbed a kill. Now they've decided it's time to back away.
Yeah, that would be the smart plan here, would be to back away because they don't want to get caught by any kind of counter-engage. But in that fight, Jarvan died before he even got his Cataclysm off, but it was after the dragon went down anyway, so it really just did not work out there for N faculty, and there's just too much damage during that fight from JWoww coming out. He put the Equalizer down. Yes, he's only got a Seeker's Arm Guard, which is a bit different from the Haunting guys that you'd normally see for extra penetration, but he still is going to have a fair amount of damage right now.
Yeah. We do, however, see a nearly 3,000 gold lead for Gamers2 because of that dragon and kill pickup. Cedrian is going to do this bottom turret down first, which will close the gap a little way up again, but it is still a comfortable 2,000 gold for Gamers2. 3 kills to nothing, 1 turret apiece. As in faculty look to try and regain a handhold in this game.
Yes, indeed they do. And interestingly enough, another item picked up by Oriana that signals that they want to take this later and later into the game is the Seeker's Arm Guard. It is a fairly common follow-up after picking up that tier. Essentially, double defensive item as Ku has snuck his way down into the bottom lane, but he is alone for now until Ocelote joins him, so a little bit of mismatched time on this, and you have to feel like Cedrian is going to back away. But honestly, Ku and Ocelote have so much kill potential right now that Cedrian is in a lot of trouble.
He's staying close,
not if he does that.
They do check the bush with his Clairvoyant Trinket. They also had Sona down nearby. And speaking of junglers sneaking into bushes, top lane, Obvious, has snuck very sneaky into that bush. Complete opposite of Obvious as we stand. Rumble pushing the lane back on out from the tower. He's going to walk straight into Jarvan if he's not careful. So JWoww has to play this cautiously, knowing his jungler is miles away. He knows that in faculty know his jungler is miles away. Got to be awful careful getting close to either of these members of the faculty.
But JWoww, if he stays around his turret with Equalizer, should be fairly comfortable here in a 1v2.
In goes Xaxus, takes a couple of turret shots for his trouble, but there was no way Obvious could join him in that. He could not get close enough. It's just helping him push the lane for a little bit instead. A lot of wasted time then for Obvious standing in that bush.
Yeah, both junglers are struggling for the last couple of minutes. Oh, Equalizer comes out in top lane.
He's going to go chasing on to Xaxus. He just leaps on away. Kook can't land the Sonic Wave, but Culling's coming up as well, and Janus there. They're going to try and pop the passive under the tower. Kook's doing what he can, will pop the passive, That's a small win for Gamers 2.
There was a lot used for that, though. Equalizer, there was culling used as well. They're going to get the turret from this, or should do, when the minion wave actually pushes up with it. But
Zed also grabbed bottom because of it.
That's the key factor, is Zed is already starting to wind up that split push mechanic, where he is down there on his own, and who goes up against the Zed right now? Honestly, I mean, later into the game, Zazis is going to be that guy. This early on, not really that easy.
If he's still out of his passive, he could do. But now that that's gone, he can't even go down there and deal with Ocelote 1v1.
Exactly.
But 3 turrets to 1 now as Gamers 2 have picked up that top and bottom tier 1s as well. Ocelote was looking to steal away the blue buff, but has a bit too much company from Soz Perfect. Ooh, he almost picked that up, but Soz Perfect grabs it with the last burst of ability damage. And Gamers 2 back off and reset for a little bit. We're seeing some big items coming in for them now. Almost complete Infinity Edge for Lucian. Blade of the Ruined King is up for Zed, but he has no boots on him yet. And there's that Haunting Guise out of Rumble. Over on the other side, though, Corki's finished his Trinity Force, which is a nice burst. Zazus not quite got himself that Blade of the Ruined King himself yet. But with the next dragon coming up in under 2 minutes, Orianna is lacking a lot of damage, and Zed has a lot of damage.
Yeah, that's one of the problems with this double defensive item start, is that you're delaying your mid-game damage right up until you get a load of items completed all at once. So he's not going to have the impact that you'd expect from something like a Shockwave, and he's actually building, I believe, towards a Morellonomicon as well at this point. So once that, damage to come from the Morellonomicon, but top lane, there is a lot of people.
Zazus now that he's got no passive. Ku comes on up, does use the Sonic Wave, but will wait for after the leap to use it. The red buff is ticking down, and they're going to feed the kill to JWoww, and it's 4-0 in favor of Gamers 2. Now they've pinged it onto Corki, actually. They might have pinned him off here. He's going to go aggressive onto Lucian. Yuki's taking a lot of damage, but he will culling onto Cedric in return. It's not quite the same amount, but now Ku is chasing him down. Cedric needs the move speed boost, and will get out safely.
Yeah, he will get out safely, but that was a little touch and go for a moment there for Cedric, and he could have been under a lot of pressure, but Gamers 2 have this game a lot more comfortably in their control than previous games. And
for now.
Yes, for now, but I have to kind of bring to the forefront of this that coming into this series, or just in general, Ocelote has been around the scene for a very long time and has always played utility mid laners. Now he seems to have added Zed to his playlist, and as soon as he's on a champion like Zed, you can see the difference he has here. He's putting out a lot of pressure on this map.
So we saw him get a little bit of damage on the bottom tier 2 turret there as well, and Ku managed to rotate around to help him as well. But the dragon's up in 3 seconds. Ku is there waiting. Ocelote's nearby. Lucian's come down. Janna will be here, but there's 4 members of Faculty coming through their jungle. Sona leading the way, Jarvan there to follow it up. And they're going to try and do something to stop this dragon, but it's already very, very loud. Obvious goes in, manages to get the smite and steal it away, but will he lose his life for it? He goes on to Lucian, but has to immediately back on out. Sona ult does hit 2, but Lee Sin will fall, as does Jarvan. Now they're on to Cedric. Ocelote's doing a lot of damage, but has to blink away before the Ignite will finish him off. Mountain gets that kill as Source Perfect chases down Yuki. Now they're looking to focus on to Lucian. He will flash for the last little bit of damage. He does grab that kill. Can't rotate onto Kasing, but it's 3 for 3, and the dragon goes to Faculty.
It does. Really nice steal out by Obvious to get in there before Ku could smite it down. Ku's smite still available, and JWoww still had his teleport too. He perhaps could have made his presence felt, but
I'm pretty sure he soloed Zazus in the top lane. Zazus just respawned.
That would make a lot of sense then. That is why at the tail end of that fight, teleport is still available and Equalizer is not.
Yes, I'm pretty sure he killed Zazus 1v1 in that top lane while that was all happening, which would explain why neither of them teleported away. So, all kinds of action across the map. So technically that was a 3 for 2 fight down bottom in favor of Gamers 2.
Yeah.
In favor of Faculty, sorry. But because Zazus died top, it became a 3 for 3 total.
And the dragon.
And the dragon still went to Faculty, so they still technically came out on top from that. But with Rumble now 2-0-3 with a needlessly large rod under his belt, if he could have soloed Zazus before getting that rod, there's a lot of trouble now for Gamers 2.
Ooh, Obvious. Just being deterred from going in there, but the item spikes are starting to really fit for Faculty. Now that Corki has the Sorcerer Shoes, you saw how much damage he was able to do in that fight after getting Trinity Force. Now he has a little bit more penetration there as well, which means his Phosphorus Bombs are really going to hurt whoever gets hit by them. So, fights like that are going to really start wearing off on gamers too. If they don't get Rumble into the fight, they're going to be under a lot of heavy pressure.
Easy middle turret there for Faculty, taking the kill score on towers to 3 versus 2. But they do back away with their prize. It's only 1,000 gold, and it's enough for them at the moment. Sounds perfect, all grabbing those wraiths as well, trying to get as much farm under his belt as possible. He's starting to get some damage now with that Morello Nomicon complete, but other than that, still 2 defensive items. Shockwave is still not being that face melt ability that they need it to be for a while yet. On the other hand, Zed still doesn't have boots and is going pure damage as Ocelote would like to be that face melt.
Gamers 2 know they have to set up the vision, though, to allow Ocelote the room to split push in this game, but they actually are going to still set up together as a team, as a single unit. They know that with Rumble's ultimate, they are strong enough to do so, but the vision just in general is so strong for Gamers 2 right now that Faculty have a lot of difficulty here.
Equalizer goes out, but it's just there to force Faculty back. We do see Zazus being kicked by Q as he leaps in, but the Sonar comes down onto JWoww while he's got turret aggro, taking a lot of damage and now taking rockets from Corki. Good disengage from Kasing, but Faculty are still chasing onto this and they've got a lot of move speed. Jarvan, 4-man Cataclysm locks him down. He will die for it, but he manages to get the kill onto Rumble for his team. Yuki's now incredibly low and is using the culling onto Cedrian, who's been exhausted, but now there's no health on Faculty and both teams back away with a 1-for-1 trade.
The turret was saved though right at the beginning, and JWoww got locked down so early on, but that was a beautiful Cataclysm out of Obvious. Caught them right as they were trying to disengage. So Gamers 2 getting held up in their tracks there by Faculty, who have taken what was a fair disparity between two teams on the gold, and they have brought it into far more of a manageable chunk.
Yeah, we're starting to see Faculty getting those items, getting a bit more of their mid-game power on the champions that have such a thing, and are using it to hold Gamers 2 at bay. Gamers 2 need to use this power they've got a little bit more wisely to make sure they do not late too late and lose out on the game, going to about 45 minutes.
65 minutes.
Nightmares. Nightmares. 2-1-4 on Rumble, 3-1-4 on Lee Sin, and 3-1-1 on Zed are some very nice kill scores for their damage dealers on Gamers 2. But Ku's going to fall off with his damage soon. Zed starting to be very, very squishy as far as the Gamers 2 line, the Faculty lineup goes. They were able to nuke him down very fast in that last fight, but JWoww needs to not get caught out by a turret again.
Yeah, he needs to respect the turrets, essentially, at this point. I mean, Faculty did a good job of following up from that engage, but I don't know how many times they're going to be able to land that kind of Cataclysm. If they can do it every time, their composition is great here. With the amount of hard engage they've got here between Aatrox and Jarvan, that just sets them up very nicely for a team fight. But Gamers 2 have a lot of mobility. It's difficult to land crescendos and cataclysms on this many people, especially with the disengage that comes from Janna. So, can Faculty make that position happen for them once again before Gamers 2 creep their lead up again?
Ocelote's in the bottom lane now, trying to split onto that tower. Ooh. As we pause. Faculty will have spotted him though, so they're going to have an idea of what's happening down there. Now, while we get this pause sorted as fast as possible, let's look down the item build-up. Finally boots now on Ocelote, but as I mentioned, he's still very squishy. He's actually going to go finish off a Ghost Blade before he grabs himself a Last Whisper here, looking at that average blade in his. And we're still waiting to see a Static Shiv complete for Lucian.
Yeah, indeed. Actually, the teams say they're ready, so I believe we're going to get back into this one straight away. Thankfully, nice. It's only a small pause. But you talked about Ocelote being down in that bottom lane. So we talked about in Game 2, JWoww's split push, and how perhaps the communication wasn't there to allow JWoww to do it. You have to feel, though, with a little bit of a stronger voice, that perhaps if they can get Zed split pushing a lot, Ocelote is going to be that strong voice.
That strong voice could have been the reason JWoww wasn't split pushing.
It could have been, very much
man
so.
right there with Zed could very well have been the strong voice telling JWoww to stick with his team. So
could have been
that way. Unfortunately, though, that's in Faculty pausing a second time over, so they're clearly having some minor issue with their setup. We'll obviously get them to talk to the admins, get the admins to talk to us, and to find out exactly what it is as fast as possible, and give you guys an update. But they obviously weren't as fixed and ready as they had thought, which is a little bit worrying. But we can talk about their items again.
We can.
Because Orianna finally has some damage. She's got a needlessly large rod built up. So that Zhonya's Hourglass is getting closer, but the shockwave, more importantly, is going to hurt.
It is. And between needlessly large rod for that Zhonya's and the Morellonomicon as well, that's a fair amount of damage. That is really going to start stacking. And okay, and Faculty giving the ready again in chat. So hopefully this time it's actually okay and they actually are ready to go live. Hopefully it's just like ping issues or something like that. It's something that's easy to fix.
Yeah, little brother's downloading or something similar. Just go and pull the cable out of his PC and make sure you can keep going. So the unpause is there, and we will see. Does also look at this tower, not this time around, but he did a lot of damage to it there before Faculty managed to come and help out. Now you see Ku putting pressure on the middle lane as well, and Rumble helping zone them out of the jungle. So this is a lot of good control from Gamers 2.
Yeah, it is a fair amount of control. And taking a look again at items, Xaxis has picked himself up a Negatron Cloak. And while that may seem a little bit perplexing by the fact he's probably going to be the one 1v1ing Ocelote the later this game goes, it's towards the Spirit Visage. So when he is life-stealing, he gets that increased effect. So the later into the game that goes, that'll actually benefit Xaxis a fair amount.
Dragon just spawned. We do now see Gamers 2 already on it, doing a lot of damage to it as fast as possible with JWoww tanking. And it doesn't look like in Faculty you're going to get close enough this time to do anything about it. Gamers 2 managed to secure it. Now they're chasing in Faculty towards the middle lane. The Equalizer goes out. Doesn't actually land on many people at all, but does tick on Souls perfectly a little. Ocelote goes deep in the shockwave, goes straight off on top of him, but he dodges away from it. Has been exhausted though. Obvious is low, but Ocelote will fall first. Now Ku's going to drop down, and no one in Faculty is dead. They flash forward onto JWoww to do everything they can, and they will finish him off as 3 kills from Faculty make them turn immediately for Baron.
Big crescendo there out of Mountain, and he caught Ku and Ocelote at the same time. Those are two very tricky people to lock down, but with them off the board, the rest of the fight is pretty much child's play for Faculty, and that is a massive gold difference now. Well, I say gold difference. It's going to be a massive... you know what I mean. They've got
it's a 3-for-0 fight for Faculty. They grab the Baron and switch onto Kasing and Yuki. He does use the Monsoon to get back, but Cedrion's going to keep chasing Yuki forward. Got the move speed boost from Orianna. Will pick up the kill onto Lucian, and it's a rampage for Cedrion.
Momentum was the word I was looking for. Got it. The momentum they're going to get from the Baron. I know, it's been a long day with that 65-minute game already, but they're not done yet. They're pushing top lane.
This is what in Faculty we saw them do perfectly in the first game and must have done in the last series too. After grabbing 1 or 2 kills in a fight, 3 for this one, they get a Baron and a Dragon. They go for objectives straight away, and this is why their objective count from last week was so incredibly high. Now, they are 3 for 3 on turrets here with Gamers 2. 8 to 8 in kills, and a 2,000 gold lead now finally in Faculty's favor while they wear this Baron buff for the next 4 minutes.
And I guess the story of this series really has been when Faculty start taking objectives, they're pairing it. So that they're not only getting one objective. Every time they get something, they're always just continuing to get more across the map. And it's very difficult to deal with a team that are good at doing that. Because you go from a situation of essential neutrality where nobody's fighting at all to we just lost 3 turrets and a Baron at the end of that fight. And when you kind of blink and you miss those objectives going down, there's big gold spikes that go over to Faculty, and their items just start getting stronger and stronger. And Faculty have managed to halt Gamers 2 in this game.
Here's another big deal too, which is no secret when it comes to Ocelote. He is a very emotional player.
Yeah.
And when you're this close to the LCS, when you've been trying for this long, and a game swings that far against you, staying on tilt is very, very hard. So there is a question now. Do we see anything crazy from him trying to make big plays as Zed could ruin the game? Because in fact, they've just grabbed themselves another free turret and are now looking at the inhibitor as well. Gamers 2 have Ku behind them though. They're looking for an opening.
But
they're
too late.
Yet. They're giving up the tower. Kasing has to flash away from Cedrion. Completely wasted flash where he didn't need to take that damage. The inhib is definitely gone. And Ku did not want to come in and engage.
I mean, Gamers 2 just rolled over on that. There was nothing they could actually do to defend that turret because unlike Gamers 2 in the last game, when and Faculty have had Baron buff, they have been pushing objective after objective. And from there is no real way that Gamers 2 can fight that, especially with Ku stuck all the way around in his jungle.
I don't know what's going through Gamers 2's head right now. Yes, okay, they had a Baron buff. Yeah, you're lacking a little bit of wave clear, but Ocelote wasn't even close. He didn't even try and wave clear. He was back on the fountain for the majority of it. Rumble didn't use his equalizer for it. They just, as you said, rolled over and let it go. They're now looking for Zazaso. Here they come out. The kick goes in. He does leap on top of him, but the rest of them Faculty here. It's a 4-man crescendo, and then a follow-up cataclysm. Lucian falls down. Ocelote is in full retreat from Cedric, but it's not going to work. He falls, and now they're trying to chase Ku. He's been slowed, and they've got move speed bust from Soz Perfect. They're going to keep chasing him through the lane. Janna is here to try and help out, but over the wall they go. Tornado's there from Obvious, and now he's here on top of Ku and Kasing, and the rest of Faculty are still coming through the blue buff. Here's Soz Perfect and Cedric. There's a tower, though. They're going to keep diving it. They don't care. They're going to follow it up. More move speeds from Sona. Here's a Valkyrie forward, and Kasing loses his life. Ku survives the whole way, but again, it's another tower and 4 total kills for Faculty.
Deja vu. It's game 1 all over again. G2 fall behind. And how do they try and steady themselves? How do they try and get back in the game? A strange over-aggressive play in one of the side lanes from Ku onto one person. When Aatrox has his passive, you put 4 people engaging on an Aatrox that's going to come back alive. When the rest of Faculty are out of your vision, you are asking to get locked in place and completely wiped from the map. Gamers 2 are falling apart while playing from behind.
So, Dragon up in a minute. They didn't quite have the time on that from Faculty, so they went over there, but wasn't ready. They'll go back and shop, and let's see then. Zhonya's Hourglass complete on Orianna. Randuin's complete on Jarvan. He's going for a very tanky route this time around. We do see a Bloodthirster up on Corki as well. He's also very close to a Last Whisper, so some big items being completed by all of them. There's still a large spike here for Lucian now that he's got his static shiv. Almost on a Last Whisper for Zed as well. And Rumble does have a lot of damage. Gamers 2 need to be a lot smarter at where they've taken these fights, because these equalizers up until now haven't actually been a factor in any of the fights.
No, and you consider that the Rumble was the first pick here from JWoww. That was what they essentially put as their headline champion for this game. And they banned 3 top laners to do it.
And they're not here to defend this tower.
No, they're not. They've been out-rotated by Faculty here, and that is another objective uncontested. 7 towers now for Faculty.
Faculty do have the objective game down to a T at this point, which is great for them.
It is very difficult now for Ocelote to kill one person. Double defensive items are completed now for Soz Perfect. He's turned it Zhonya's Hourglass and the Seraph's Embrace. So who do you kill? The next best target would be Corki, but he's got Bloodthirster Shield. Equalizer is down.
Equalizer is down, but it is just for wave clear and disengage. And then Faculty are willing to shrug it off and come back in now that the minion wave is dead. Killing off the Gamers 2 wave. They haven't got the Baron buff for regen this time, but they do have Sona, and using her shield, they're going straight back into the turret because there's super creeps in the middle lane, and Gamers 2 have to leave it. Inhibitor down in bottom. They're going to try and get the inhibitor down itself after the turret fell, and they will now have 2 inhibs exposed and down. The middle one does just about respawn. Once they've healed all this health back up, nothing's to stop them come back and take it again, just like they did there.
It's going to be the Baron in 40 seconds time. So, I mean, Faculty are doing what Gamers 2 should have done last game. This is how Gamers 2 should have been playing from the 35-minute mark when they had the lead. And you can tell that Faculty are just more confident playing with their compositions in their own playstyle when ahead. And Gamers 2 just really need to figure something out right now. They need the ultimates to be better from JWoww.
So that's the key thing, when they're ahead.
Yeah.
In Faculty last game when they were behind, we're a little bit more unsure on what the hell to do with that. Yes, the comp that Gamers 2 had made it very hard for them as well, but they certainly didn't have this clear, decisive decision-making they're having right now. When they're ahead, though, they know exactly where they should be and what they should be doing.
But at the same token, Gamers 2 have looked even more completely at the wits. Disheveled, great word for that. Yes, that is exactly how Gamers 2 look right now, because as soon as they get behind, they kind of just make these very strange decisions where at least Faculty were like, okay, let's just stay in our base and wait this out.
They also making a great decision here not going for that Baron. Because they've got exposed inhibitors, because they've got super creeps bottom, they know they don't need to risk it. They don't need to go into that pit and have Gamers 2 come in and equalize on top of them or steal it away or anything like that. Take yourselves a free inhibitor. Put even more pressure down onto the map. You force the culling out, tank it up and shrug it off thanks to Sona heals. And with Ku behind them and Ocelote behind them, they know it's there this time. So they are just slowly easing their way in and taking this inhibitor down.
They've got to be careful of JWoww though. He will use that equalizer. And they're in a tough spot here because it could cut people off. But inhibitor has gone down. And as you'd expect, they pull back away from the base. There's nothing more for them there.
They also have a massive wave of super creeps coming bottom too, so they know they can go to Baron here, and Gamers 2 have to send at least one person towards the bottom lane and to deal with it. They are clearing out all the wards they can see. They haven't got most of them yet, but Gamers 2 do gain one turret in the top lane thanks to minions. And here's something else in Faculty do brilliantly. One person's going top to clear this minion wave, everyone goes up there with him. They're not sending him alone, they're not doing the Baron without him. They are making sure they're all staying close and accessible if he needs them.
Yeah, because they know there's no chance of Gamers 2 really doing anything at this point.
There might be if these three goes too far up the lane. They're going to collapse in behind them now. Coming up the river, we need to see Java and Oriana and Sona getting out of there fast. And they do now decide to back away. And actually, Gamers 2 gave up on the chase before they'd even left.
Yeah, Gamers 2 I don't think really had the entire story on that. I don't think they had entire vision to know that they weren't all together. So it's a little bit lucky, but now they will because... And Faculty just walked over a ward. But Gamers 2 are out of position here as well. This could be very treacherous.
Onto Cedrian, uses his full burst, but Cedrian Valkyries to his team, and the pop won't be enough. And that's in Faculty knowing
they've
now
cut them
that's
off.
A big ultimate down. And yes, Gamers 2 are stuck outside their own base. They're going to try and nuke this turret down even without the minions arriving just yet. And it's down to half health before Gamers 2 even show up.
Where's the equalizer?
There's the equalizer. Actually, great damage onto Cedrian this time around. And in fact, you have to back away. Zaz's taking a lot of burst, but still has his passive, and it doesn't even need to be used yet. As in Faculty back away and live to fight another day.
5 people attacking your turret with disrespecting the rumble that's there. No equalizer comes out until it's a little bit perhaps later than could have been used. Then Faculty got a lot of damage down onto that turret. And JWoww just kind of let them do it. But
2 waves of super creeps pushing into the base. Everyone on Gamers 2 right now is called back for defense, as in the top lane, here comes Faculty again. There is another shield on the tower, but it's not going to be enough as the inhibitor turret number 3 falls down for Faculty. They do have to back away as they've taken a lot of poke, but it's only until the minion wave arrives and they're off again. Bottom inhibitor has respawned now, but there's a teleport coming back from Zazos as he is healed, and they will finally get themselves the 3rd inhibitor of the game. Wow, rotating towards middle, slowly but surely, to expose another inhibitor as they head right the way around the Gamers 2 base. The Cedrian's actually been exposed away here. He's going to get a lot of damage on JWoww, but actually turns it back just as easily. And now they're onto the bottom inhibitor again.
It is
Super
so
creeps
difficult.
coming in every way, but it's down to half health. Gamers 2 need to find an opening, but the equalizer is still not back up yet. And now with all 3 inhibitors dead, Faculty is going to turn and run away. Ku's looking for an opening, will kick Cedrian in, but he Valkyries back. Equalizer hits lots, but so many people are caught in that shockwave. The Cataclysm catches all 3 members of Gamers 2. They will kill Rumble, and still no casualties for Faculty, even though Corky's incredibly low. Ocelote pops the passive onto Zazos, but a flash forward will kill him off. Now Yuki and Kasing are the last 2 up. Sol's perfect. Zonya's under the Nexus turret, but the super creeps are there, and now there's still no one dead on Faculty. Gamers 2 have 2 members up to defend it, but it's a mountain of a task. Yuki's going to get knocked up by Obvious. There's Mountain, in fact, trying to grab their kill. Corky picks it up. 1 Nexus turret falls. 2nd Nexus turret has no chance. Kasing can't defend this, and Faculty will take this series 2 games to 1 and move on forward to be the offline rounds in IEM Cologne.
What a game by Faculty. My goodness, that was just objective control 101. They took the Baron, they took objectives from it, and they took away the hopes of Gamers 2 from getting into LCS for the 2015 season.
Another massive setback for Ocelote and the Gamers 2 organization. They've never been this close to being in the LCS, and again, falling at the last hurdle. Faculty taking them out this time. So it will be Faculty versus H2K at IAM Cologne as one of our 2 opening matchups. And while H2K did look very strong, we've just seen how Faculty can do when they get ahead. If they get that little bit of lead, that little bit of confidence, H2K are going to have to be on their toes.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest things I would say of N faculty coming into this, or at least at the tail end of this game, is when somebody makes a decision to go for an objective, it's all systems go. All 5 people are committed to whatever the call is made, and you can see that that really just got in between Gamers 2's game plan. Gamers 2, they did a great job at taking objectives.
They did. That is it from us for this series. Gamers 2 versus Faculty is decided. Next up is going to be Millennium versus Giants. That's it from me. Pulse will be taking over when we come back after this break.